Family has always been an important part of my life. Both my parents are from cultures where family is valued above all. My father's parents were Croatian, and he grew up in a building with aunt, uncle, cousins, and his grandmother. My mother's father is Iranian, and she grew up in a house with all her aunts, uncles, 9 of her cousins, and her grandmother. And me, I live in a building with 28 relatives. When I was a child, my great-grandparents lived in the building as well. Every Sunday, my family gathers at my grandparents' house. It is an open house with cousins ranging in age from 3 to 19, and there is often up to 30 of us on a given Sunday. We've been doing this for my whole life. I have a twin brother and another brother that is 22 months older than us, so the 3 of us were always very close.
My brothers and I are the oldest of our generation. We were the first to start the tradition of going to my grandparents' house, and we watched our family grow to what is now 13 grandchildren. This poem, entitled Encounter by Marie-Therese Calimon, may very well be about an encounter between an ex-boyfriend and girlfriend. However, when I read this poem, it reminded me of my grandmother and my relationship with her.
To me, this poem represents the larger issue of growing up. The poem describes a chance encounter on a city street. I'd say, "How are you?" And you, "Fine, thanks." I'd say, "We don't see you anymore." And you, "I'm very busy." A pause. I begin again very softly. "Tell me." And you, not hearing my mumbled words, would go right on unsuspecting. "Oh," politely, "you don't have your big straw hat anymore." But, "No, not anymore," I'd answer. "And you, do you still like sugared almonds?" Listen to that tune from the house opposite. Then we would each go off across the city, carrying in our hearts, full with silent sobs, the bitter burden of unspoken words, and the empty pride of having kept our pain. This poem is about 2 people growing apart from each other, changing. It seems as though they were once very close, but their time apart has separated them, and they have become very awkward with each other. They parted without saying everything that they wanted to say. They remained very formal. Although they still love each other, time has made it hard for them to express it. I personally see this poem as an encounter between a grandmother and granddaughter, me in particular. I see it as the granddaughter changing, growing up, leaving home soon. She has her own life now with different priorities. Family comes second now, or maybe even third. Recently, I've stopped going as often to my grandparents' house on Sundays. Life has gone in the way. College applications, friends, homework, all the things that come with growing up. The separation that I feel from my grandmother, caused by my growing up, causes me to view this poem as a growing up story. What made me think of my grandmother was the first stanza. The line, "I'm very busy," is a line that I often use. I use it pretty much every Sunday now. It's been at least 2 months since I've gone to my grandparents' house. This excuse of being very busy is true. I am busy. However, I always feel guilty when I say that, because I should be putting my family first. But it's hard because of work and college come first nowadays.
Not going to my grandma and papa's house has actually been really hard for me. Like the girl in the story who notices that her grandmother doesn't have her big straw hat anymore, there are things that I don't know about my grandmother either. Changes.
The hat is an example of how they have lost each other and will continue to lose each other with time. When I spoke to my grandmother recently, I found out that she had had a major fall and really hurt her knee. This was over a month ago. I didn't even know about it because I wasn't there. Within my huge family, in my generation, my brothers and I are the oldest, and it's hard being the first to leave home, to be the first to slowly detach from the family. So it's hard for me not to show up and instead to stay home and do work. It's also hard because we're growing up and leaving home while our cousins are still so young. I see them playing with my old toys and wearing my old baby clothes that my grandmother knit for me. We have to look at our younger cousins, knowing that they will be growing up without us. We're going to miss it. I'm going to be missing a lot, like every Sunday, but growing up is just a part of life. Just as I will grow up and leave home and detach from the family, I will come back and I will be close again, perhaps in a different way.
سایه‌ای که خالی ازش همیشه محتاج به نور خورشید همیشه محتاج به نور